Consultant in Your Pocket Webcast bring you What's New in Sametime 9 with Gabriella Davis of Turtle Partnership and Chris Miller of Connectria. Brought to you by your sponsor, Instant Technologies. Visit them at instant-tech.com.
This is the first webcast in a few months because there really hasn't been a lot to talk about. But as you all know, all the other webcasts are recorded and available for you guys to stream. We put them online as a YouTube playlist. We put them on the blog. There's no reason you can't go back and watch any of the hour and so sessions for each one of them. There's a good 12 to 14 sessions. App dev, management, deployment, what's new, they're all out there and available. Just look at the consultintinyourpocket.com website and they're all there. Gab, we're going to let you introduce yourself. It's all you, Gab. Talk about yourself for a minute.
Morning, everyone. My name is Gab Davis. I'm an administrator and system designer. I work on pretty much all the IBM collaboration products, Domino and Sametime and Connections. Primarily, Turtle Partnership been a business partner out of the UK since '96, and I have a shiny new blog on turtleblog.info. My old blog is left behind and still there, and I've started new. I'm a speaker, and I speak when people ask me to speak because I enjoy learning new technology and I enjoy speaking. And you can contact me on my email is gabriella@turtlepartnership.com, my Skype, Gabriella Davis, and my Twitter handle is GabTurtle. I was also the co-author with Marie Scott and Tom Doff on the Sametime Administration Guide for 852, the IBM Enterprise Red Wiki, and I write connections101.net with Paul Mooney, which if you haven't seen is a step-by-step guide to installing connections. That's it.
Yeah. Lovely. You need to get the little icon for the champion thing. We need to put that on your list.
Yeah.
Okay. We definitely need to put it on. I don't even have it on mine, I don't think. Let me look. I don't have mine either. So another IBM champion. Apologize myself. Some of you, hopefully, if you found this webcast, then you know who I am. But if not, I do notes on everything that's out there. But in daytime, real job, director for Connectria. For those that don't know, we're pretty much the largest hosting and remote management now out there for the Lotus world. But we don't just do Lotus products. But we have 4 data centers, and across the board, we're certified for you. EU, SAS 70, SSAE, everything you imagine, HIPAA compliancy, PCI compliancy, everything in the world you could want. But we host a bunch of Sametime, deploy, do audits, security, health checks. So I work with Gab quite often, and then she also, often hates me for that too. So that's fine. So we'll go ahead and move along. We'll introduce here our sponsor, Instant Technologies, social apps for the enterprises. So they were kind enough to help put this all together so we can make it available for you guys not only to watch but to stream and also for the recordings and everything else. So Peyton's on the line. I'm going to switch control to him for a minute, let him tell a little bit about what they do, and then we'll dig through the webcast. So Peyton, if you're ready, here comes the presentation tools for you. There it is.
Okay, super. Hey, thanks for, well, I'd like to just begin by just saying thanks for Chris for getting us involved in this, and just a couple of minutes just on Instant and what we're doing and what we've been doing. So we develop social apps for the enterprise, and typically it's leveraging an enterprise IAM platform exactly like Sametime, and we've been doing that since 2002. And sort of our 2 main classes of applications are first archiving and e-discovery for compliance, and then we have an excellent click-to-chat help desk application that leverages your Sametime architecture to route inbound chat requests. And we're really excited about both of those for Sametime 9. So just about the Sametime 9 launch, this is probably the most excited we've been, in years for a Sametime launch. Primarily, it has to do with a lot of the ways that they're changing the licensing and that they're now involving the extranet license, and it's just included. And we've been involved since 2002, so we've seen a lot of launches. When I talked to Carla Wall and Kim Artlett, that removal of that extranet license requirement is huge for us because we do a lot of work around click-to-chat and routing of help desk requests both for inside and outside an organization. So now that we could provide a click-to-chat link on an extranet and route that to someone internal, that's huge. The other thing is compliance and e-discovery. So I'll just kind of quickly cover those 2 things. So for compliance and e-discovery, typically our customers might need to monitor and audit their Sametime conversations. They might need to capture all those centrally, and they may need to create ethical firewalls. So we have an application, Integrity, that installs in less than 30 minutes, scales to up to 60,000 users, extremely stable, same time 8.5, and we'll port it to 9, and it integrates with third-party compliance solutions. So it's a great tool, been in the market for years. A lot of large customers are using it and are very happy with it. And then just real quickly on Queue Manager, and with the Sametime 9 launch, it's going to open up a lot of avenues for us. Queue Manager was designed to provide either internal employees or external folks immediate access to an expert. And the benefit there is that you already have Sametime involved. So we're going to piggyback off that Sametime infrastructure. We're going to use Presence, IEM, experts are going to use their Sametime client, and we're going to connect people in real time. And in a lot of cases, we're wiring up existing help desks with this click-to-chat support. So we have some very large deployments that receive upwards of 1,000 to 1,500 inbound requests a day. Just a small little graphic. You have people on a website or you have internal folks. They're looking for help. They'll start a chat conversation with our software. We'll locate someone somewhere in the world using Sametime that can help them, and then we'll put those two people together in real time. We also have about 50 charts and metrics with basically a full call center type dashboard and all of the things you would expect to see in a call center, but we're using it in essentially a click-to-chat enterprise solution. And then just, we were trading some emails with Kim last night, and his main takeaway for the Sametime 9, one of them was that now customers will be able to collaborate with customers and partners without having to require the extranet license, which is huge. So any licensed user, Sametime, will be able to work with external folks without that requirement to stand up an extranet server. For us, with Queue Manager, that was always sort of an issue because that extranet license sometimes was quite expensive. So we're very excited about Sametime 9. Really glad and thankful that Chris and Gabby are putting this together. And now I'll transfer back to Chris. And if you have any questions on Instant, please visit our website at instant-tech.com or follow us on Twitter at Team Instant. Chris, back to you, and thanks very much.
Not a problem. I will grab control real quick. Back to you. And if anyone has questions, for Instant Technologies, I'm going to give you some info on them. First of all, you can reach them at their Twitter, their Facebook, their LinkedIn, their phone number, their email address. Everything's here. If you have questions during the session, you can put them in the question area. We can get them over if Peyton is still on. He's going to be here for a little bit, so if you have questions, definitely put them in the question panel, and I'll send them right to him. If you ask after he leaves, then I will send them over to him in email later on. So you also have the email information on the screen. We want to thank them once again for helping put all this together and sponsoring and get you guys everything you need. If you have issues with audio, and two people have said so, you have a choice on your screen. There's an audio tab that lets you use a telephone with your own dial-in and access code, or your mic and speakers on your computer. Either one is acceptable. You also have an area on there for questions. Now, for the questions themselves, you can enter it in. We will both see it. Gab and I will see it. We will try to answer it live for everyone, or if it's a private question, we can do that as well. But please put them in the question tab. That way we can see them come through. In the chat area, it'll go so fast, we'll probably lose track because a lot of times in the chat it moves through. So there's a nice question tab where we can flag it, we can share it to each other, and Gab and I can work on it and see it. And I have a few people that are still sending me things saying they can't get to the session, which I'll take care of on the side in a second. But welcome to everyone that made it in. Somehow you magically made it in. So here we go, Gab. We're going to get started and off and running through the slides. Here's our agenda list for the day. We're going to talk about Sametime 9 and changes. We're going to cover a few things on that. The architecture, talk about the licensing, and then we'll get into upgrading your existing Sametime architecture. Gab and myself over the years have gone through tons of installs and upgrades and moving around everything else. 9 adds some new things to it, which is what we're going to talk about, as well as some things that get removed from the capabilities from some of the classics. So we're going to jump through these, and Gab, let's get into the agenda so we can get started because we have about an hour left. So, Gab, is this me or you? I guess it's me because Gab muted herself again. So we're not going to show you the shiny stuff of the new client features. I've got a link on the next slide. I know you're back, Gab. A new link on the next slide to show you the client features in Sametime 9. IBM's done a great job of this already. They give you all these little diagrams and pictures and everything else. We're not here to show you the new shiny pretty and just the client because there's so much out there that they've done, but they didn't touch on what we're going to do is about the architecture, the server, and the deployment models. So we're going to talk about the benefits and challenges with the changes that they've given you in Sametime 9. So Gab, I'm going to give it to you in 1 second. Here's the links, the IBM info. They have a nice blog post that has links to some of the what's new in slide sets for the client, what's new in the little video thing, and everything else. Remember, this is all recorded, and it'll also be in the blog post that we put the recording in. But there's the link for what IBM gave you for everything new with the client. We can talk about and answer questions on this side. We'd be happy to. So server changes, benefits, and challenges. We're ready to jump in and start talking about it. Please ask questions as we go along. I know a lot of you are already putting questions in the question panel. We're seeing them fly up the side already. That's great. So Gab, are you back on audio?
I am.
You are. So are you ready? I will change it. And when you're ready to change slides, let me know, and I'll start answering some questions, and also people are emailing saying they can't get in. Okay?
Okay.
Here you go. And first bullet.
Oh, you'll do the bullet change.
Well, you gave it to me. Do you want to have control? Oh, I can give you well, hold on. Give keyboard and mouse. I can do that to you if you want.
Yeah, go.
And there you go. You now have keyboard and mouse control.
Ah, cool. Okay. So let's talk about changes in Sametime 9. Not all the changes, but kind of the key architectural ones and the things you really need to know about. Top of the list, the Sametime community server still runs on Domino, as it has always done, and now supports Domino 9. The actual prerequisite is for Domino 9. If you're running Sametime at the moment in your environment, and you have one domain that includes the mail servers and everything, you may not be ready to move to Domino 9 for your whole domain. And we do suggest that, you know, in any Domino administrator will tell you, you start with the admin server to upgrade. Now is a good time to move your Sametime servers into their own domain if you don't have that already, because then you're able to keep your version of Domino compliant with what Sametime wants, but not have that impact the rest of your environment. It's actually a fairly simple thing to do. You can usually, we can move a server from one domain to another in a few hours worth of downtime. It is something you should really consider at this point if you haven't already separated Sametime to a separate domain. The second thing is multi-point video. Multi-point video, new with Sametime 9. Previously, we had video in Sametime and in Sametime meetings, but we had the video that detected who was talking, switched the camera so you could see who was talking, which was great when it was you talking and you got to look at yourself. They've completely re-engineered the video engine, and there are actually 2 new servers for video. Think of it more like Google Hangouts. We're going to have multi-point. Everyone who's in the meeting who has a camera is visible, and you're going to be able to see everyone who's talking. It's very, very nice technology. We're going to talk a little bit more about. It is the single kind of biggest change, I would say, in the architecture of Sametime 9. We have a redesigned and streamlined UI for the rich client. It is in line with the UI interface that's been done for Notes 9, the whole One UI idea. If you haven't seen the Sametime 9 client, I highly recommend you download it and have a look at it. I believe it's available on Greenhouse. You can use Greenhouse to log in and use the Sametime client. It is, they've done a lot of work in trying to highlight information on the screen where you can see it, so you have badges to show when people are talking to you, and you have the ability to easily see historical conversations. Again, as Chris said, we're not going into detail on this here because IBM have done several very good webcasts on the client features and the goal of Sametime 9, so that's not what we're here for today.
We can highlight 2 things about it. I know you're getting the meeting centers for the client. Yes, they added new emoticons for all those that love the emoticons. Sametime 9 has added a few, but more importantly, one thing we should note is that they've, and you, Gab, you kind of mentioned it, is the new badges as well, but also unread to give you an account of the number of lines of chat you've missed.
Yeah.
That's something that's new that a lot of people had asked for that I think is just cool, that they kind of glaze over when they do their demo, but you should make note is if you've ever wondered how many lines of chat maybe you've missed in a conversation with someone on the sidebar, you now get that number that shows up there. So just a little side note. Sorry.
No. We've also got a redesigned UI for the Meeting Center. The Meeting Center Functionally, other than the video, hasn't changed drastically. It performs better. It has a much improved, reliability, it's an improved UI, and it's more in line with the meeting center you're seeing in the cloud environment now as well.
There's the stream. I know that they put that in there now, which you can
Yes.
filter, but it's like what's going on, the chats, the files, which drives me nuts, to be honest, but there's a stream that's in there now. Snapshot is new in the meeting UI.
Yes,
Adding a
that's
snapshot
true.
instead of sharing your screen, that's kind of cool, it's just doing a snapshot. But everything else, they just basically moved stuff around and gave it the new One UI look and feel. So for those that aren't familiar, it's the gray and black kind of One UI-ish thing you're seeing in Domino 9 is one of their biggest changes they did to the sidebar inside that meeting.
And it gives Sametime that common, cleaner, more modernized field because the UI at the same time had got left behind a bit.
Yeah, they call it the ribbon. The navigation ribbon is their official name for it, but it's so you can switch between, once again, the stream, which we don't care about because you're watching the video, but the voice, the video, who's in the participants that are in the meeting, and then the library, which is, of course, stored files or maybe things that are being shared. And you can actually, in the bottom of the ribbon, add a file and invite others. So like you said, it looks more modern, but it brings it all together. It looks like everything else now. It looks like connections. It looks like the One UI bar in Notes 9, so it's one big file. Excellent.
So let's talk about the architecture. What hasn't changed in the architecture? So this is the good news for the people that already have Sametime or have deployed 8.5 or have learned it. There are a lot of things that have not changed on the architecture in any significant way. The community server. We're still running the community server on Domino. It may be a new version of Domino, but it is still essentially what you know about managing Sametime Community Server on 8.5, you now know about managing Sametime Community Server on 9. And that's kind of 90% true of this stuff that I'm listing here. The system console is still with us. The system console that's going to do the administration for all the server elements. And really, you're deploying the system console if you're having more than, you know, just a community server and maybe a proxy server. As soon as you get to the point where you're starting to have WebSphere components, you want a system console so you can manage things, so you're not having to open XML files and try and manage things that way.
We love to do that. That's what we want to do. We want XML files. Please, more XML.
I don't get enough of that in Connections World. I'd like more of that.
Please,
so yeah,
please go back before we leave this slide, though, when you're done, make sure we want to come back and talk about that community server for a second. There's something we want to come back to. Okay,
well, we can go there now. That's okay.
Well, so we need to talk about, some people, I don't want to be misled about the community server, is what happened to the old classic meetings.
Oh, I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Oh, never mind.
Well, no, you're jumping ahead to my point.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Sametime proxy server. So the Sametime proxy server still is the web interface for the Sametime client. It basically acts as a proxy listening on port 80 or 443, and it's directing requests to your back-end community server. The really interesting thing about the proxy server is that it really has no data or configuration of its own. You can have multiple proxy servers pointing at different community servers. The proxy server will give you not just the web client and the iOS and the mobile client and the tablet client, but it's also your point of integration for things like connections. So once you introduce a proxy server, that's how you're going to be able to integrate your connection server into your Sametime environment. That hasn't changed either. The Sametime meeting server, the WebSphere-based Sametime meeting server is still with us, still significantly unchanged. Sametime Advanced server is still a separately installed server. Now, Sametime Advanced was a separate license, was an upgraded license from Sametime Standard, and Chris and I are going to talk in a couple of slides about that. But essentially, it is now no longer an upgraded license. It's part of the core Sametime licensing. There are really cool things that were only ever available to people that license Sametime Advanced that are now available to you for licensing Sametime. I'm a huge fan of Sametime Advanced. Persistent chats, the ability to do broadcast communities where people could opt in to a community and receive announcements and notifications about things they've said they're interested in. But if you run connections in a very cool way, you can actually link Sametime Advanced communities to connections communities. So you take the connections online community experience and create a real-time community to complement that. And conversations and transcripts that happen in your online community, in your real-time community, can be written back to your connections community. There's some really nice stuff with Sametime Advanced that you now get as part of installing Sametime. It is, however, still a separately installed server. So they haven't rolled the code up into a single server. It is still separately installed, but it's not separately licensed. If you have Sametime and you have licensing for Sametime, you can, I believe, go ahead and install this. It's part of your licensing, and I really recommend you take a look at it.
I think a lot of people were scared of Advanced before you go and turn. I think a lot of people were before. It was a lot of extra overhead. There was a new licensing, and it seemed like a lot of extra piece work that you had to do before.
I think the problem was prior to Sametime Advanced 852, Sametime Advanced 852, they rewrote it, and it was a very simple install. Prior to that, it was all MQ series and event brokers, and 12 weeks of my life about 4 years ago trying to break it apart. It was an extremely complex component. They fixed that with 852. It is as simple to install as a meeting server. So if you were put off by it when it first came out because of the complexity of the architecture, that hasn't been true for a while and certainly isn't true in Sametime 9. So I really recommend if you can install a meeting server or a proxy server, you can install it in advance.
Yeah, it was based on the old ICT, which a lot of people didn't realize, the old IBM community tool set that they had that was available from AlphaWorks. And it was all, like you said, MQ series and event brokers, and it was a really big problem in overhead, but now there's no reason, once we talk about some features that they're going to do, that you shouldn't be installing it. And another thing on the proxy, before I know you do turn, before I forget, is for those that haven't invested the time in deploying the proxy, do it. I'm going to make a prediction now. Right now, Gab, I'm going to do it on this webcast, that by version, quote, let's say, 9.2 to 9.5, whatever numbers they come up with, that you will soon see even the integrated piece in Notes become a proxy integration and not an embedded client. That, and there's nothing in NDAs, there's nothing that exists that they've said that, but my feel is they're going to push you more and more and more to this web integration point, so you have one look and feel. There's no installable, downloadable piece you need to have. It's basically the same app, same look and feel, mobile, connections, whatever. And the reason I say that is because the capabilities are becoming so similar. It won't be long.
But we are a long way away, and I think there are benefits from the embedded Sametime client over the proxy client right now and for a significant time forward.
I don't disagree. I'm saying it is coming, though. I think they're pushing that way. But if people haven't invested even installing it yet, you need to look at the proxy server either way.
Yeah, I absolutely. One of the things a lot of people say to me, well, I want to start with Sametime, I want to start small, we just want instant messaging. And my very first question to you is, what clients do you want to use? Do you want instant messaging on your mobile devices? And the answer is always yes, in which case you need the proxy server. We're going to talk a bit about that when we talk about different strategies for deploying. The turn server. The turn server was introduced with 852 to handle NAT traversal, basically the inability across networks and through firewalls for people to do audio-video traffic. For those of you that are old school at the same time, we used to have the Sametime reflector, which did a similar thing. Basically, the audio-video traffic bounces through that server between two people that aren't on the same network. The turn server still exists. It's a jar file that runs in an interactive window. It's not a WebSphere component. It's a fairly simple component. You can deploy multiple versions of it. And that, again, is another piece that hasn't changed in Sametime 9. The Media Manager, kind of. So there is still a Media Manager. The Media Manager in 852 always consisted of three components. The SIP proxy registrar, so when the user signs on, their client actually registers with the registrar. The Conference Manager, which was used for handling media really in meetings. And then we had the Packet Switcher, which was for routing and handling the audio and video traffic. So the Media Manager still exists. It still exists as something you could install as a single component or as individual components that you then cluster. What's gone is the Packet Switcher. and we're going to talk about them in a second. So we still have, as part of the Media Manager, there are now 4 elements rather than 3. The packet switcher has gone away, and we have 2 new elements. So let's talk about that. Oh, and the Bandwidth Manager. So the Bandwidth Manager was introduced with 852, and it's a separate server client, an optional client, which you can use to granularly control the audio and video traffic. So what that does is that actually talks to the Media Manager components and gives them instructions about the quality of audio and video, the ability of audio and video between 2 connections. And it does that on the fly according to rules you've set. So Chris and I are at different offices, and the bandwidth between our offices is low. I can have a rule on the Bandwidth Manager that says if someone tries to do video between these 2 offices, actually don't allow it because we don't have the bandwidth to support it. But if Chris tries to do video with someone in his office, the rule will let him do it. And there's an incredible level of detail you can go down to creating sites and defining what's allowed between different sites and what's allowed between different users and what's allowed at different times. So if you're serious about doing audio and video in your environment and you need to get some control over the traffic, the Bandwidth Manager is still there, and it's one way you can go to really control things at detail level. It's quite complex not to install, but to build the complexity of the rules, but that's only because the logic of what you might want to build and think about in terms of what you allow people to do can be quite complex.
We actually have a question on that, Gab. If you look, I'll read it, and then we can answer it for everybody, because it's a good question. Bill asks, what are the remote bandwidth requirements for multi-point video, like for home users? Example, Skype calls can degrade when you get more than 2 or 3 participants. So, do we have hard numbers for 9? I don't think they've released any hard numbers.
No, we don't have hard numbers, and it really does come down to if you've got remote users, you're using a turn server. So it really depends how many you have. Like if you put 1 turn server in a DMZ, and everyone internally is using that turn server, and everyone externally is using that turn server, because the DNS, the host name, resolves to the same point, well then everyone's reflecting the traffic through one. But a lot of companies put turn servers internally and ones in the DMZ. So now you have 2 places. My traffic is being reflected internally, Bill's traffic is being reflected in the DMZ, and we get latency between the turn servers. So it's a real difficult question to answer with a hard number without some architectural information. But one thing you can do is you can use the Bandwidth Manager and also the Video Manager, which we're going to talk about, to actually control what people are allowed to do. And you can do things with the Bandwidth Manager, like actually not allow certain functionality if the level of available bandwidth starts dropping. But it won't dynamically adjust on the fly, if that's what Bill's asking. I don't have hard numbers on that. I would think if anyone's going to publish that, that would be IBM. But for me, if someone was asking that question, I'd want to talk about how you want to decide the architecture and where your users are going to be. Don't forget, hopefully, Dan, sorry.
No, I'm saying, so let's talk about numbers, and we're not going to give numbers. The only reason I'll tell you is, so only once have I ever gotten behind-the-scenes numbers from IBM. And that was dealing with when I was originally doing the book stuff on the gateway and everything, and people were looking for scalability. But otherwise, you'll see a maximum number of people in a multi-point video, because that's a hard number, but you're not going to see from them, you're going to get X bandwidth for this type of connection with this many people. I've just never seen IBM do that type of stuff. There's too many variables in play, mainly with home users. What's their connection speed? And like Bill said, of course, there's degradation multi. I don't think you're getting it because of Skype is a peer-to-peer type thing, that in the multi-point video, it's going to rely a lot on the horsepower and bandwidth and network of where the turn server sits. Is there any bandwidth manager controls? And then how strong is the actual meeting server on the back end as well? Unless, unless you have a difference, Gab. But for us, sitting on the web and we host this for everybody, a lot of it relies upon what the bandwidth of everyone else is and not necessarily what the server can do in scale in terms of that.
And the other issue is people are going to be using very different clients. You can't assume everyone's going to be using the same type of clients, but the server isn't going to be able to detect and customize the bandwidth based on the type of client you're coming in on. So if you want to be able to control that kind of thing, you want to start looking at the Bandwidth Manager and set up rules about the bandwidth allocated to external video.
Yeah, I don't think they've built in any flags that even says I'm on an iPad joining a meeting trying to use audio or video? Should I have a different? You know what? And I'll say that in one of the IBM articles, and actually I've seen it. They talk about the different codecs and different things, and I believe it was Del Pizzo that actually talked about it. But I don't know about the I'll look that up while Gab gets ready to talk about the next section. I think I did see that somewhere, and it's in that link that I sent. If anyone went to the WorkWorks, Reinventing WorkWorks webcast that they did, he did a session, and he talks a little bit about the codecs that are in use, but I didn't see where they did any automatic flagging.
Okay. No, me either.
So, okay, and you've answered some more questions in the side already and jumped ahead, so I'll give you back the mouse now. Oh, yeah, I'm giving you back the mouse now. Okay, there you go.
Okay, so let's talk about the things that have changed and the significant things you want to think about. Domino 9. So obviously we're running on Domino 9 environment, still 32-bit. Obviously 32-bit Domino, you can run it on a 64-bit OS if you want. The key thing, as I talked about, really consider, if you haven't already moved Sametime into its own domain, you should think about doing that. From a user perspective, all the users care about are the host name. So if you move a Sametime server from one Domino domain to another, as long as your fully qualified host name together that server doesn't change, your users aren't going to be impacted.
Now we'll talk about, and I know you're getting ready to do Media Manager, but if you're moving to another domain and you're using Domino directory, you're fine. You don't have to change the bullet. And you're moving it to its own domain. You should talk about buddy list though, but there is going to be there's some extra work you have to do, right?
No. I have a. If I'm moving a server to a new domain, I actually move the entire data directory and just recreate names.nsf and admin for and events, and everything else stays.
But most people, when they move to another directory, move to LDAP. Is my point. Sorry, I didn't.
Oh, I see. You're talking about moving LDAP. Oh, we'll get to that later.
Right, I'm saying, but so people keep in mind when Gab's saying move this to another domain, there's extra pieces that you're going to, it's not just move it over to another domain and copy a lot of times. There's
no, sorry.
To do.
Okay.
I was trying to let them know that it wasn't just a, one-step click.
I do enjoy telling people my job's easy.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I didn't want everybody to freak out thinking, oh, you could do it that easy now. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Architect, so Media Manager. I talked earlier about the Media Manager has gone from 3 components to 4. We've dropped the packet switcher, and we have 2 new components, the Video MCU, otherwise known as the VMCU, which handles multi-point video, and the Video Manager, otherwise known as VMGR in IBM documentation, which actually controls the traffic, and if you think of it similar to what the bandwidth manager is doing on a larger scale. The video manager is actually controlling the streaming of the traffic and the availability, whereas the video MCU is handling multi-point video. So a couple of things about that. The video MCU, you can install multiple versions of it, but you can only install it on Linux. It is only supported on Linux. It will only be available on Linux. And some people have complained about that. I do understand why IBM do it. It is far and away the most complex piece of the entire Sametime environment. If you think about the concept of maintaining multi-point video for people in meetings, so everyone's getting streaming video from all points at all sides, most providers doing something like that do not support it on multiple platforms. To be able to develop and support and enhance becomes a lot more efficient if you choose one platform, and Linux is much more efficient at doing that. So it is the single component in Sametime that has to be Linux installed. If you don't have the video MCU, you can still do peer-to-peer audio and video, which we're going to talk about in a second. But if you want to do any more from that, if you want meeting video, if you want multi-way video, then you have to install the VMCU. And it installs on its own machine. A lot of things we co-locate. People like to have as few servers as possible. I'll often put things side by side, the system console and DB2, the proxy server. I sometimes put the proxy and the meeting together. You can't do that with a VMCU, not just because it's Linux, but because the amount of processing required that it needs to be able to grab up for itself.
Can I get geeky?
Go
Can
on.
I talk geeky? Let me crack my knuckles because we're going to get geeky, everybody, for a second. So VMCU is a software layer only. We should discuss that. It's not hardware, which a lot of other VMCUs were. Yeah. So previously, if you were running a large multi-point video solution, you had to have hardware that was like an appliance per se. It does layers now, and so I found the answer to Bill's question a little bit, which I'll answer 2 parts. It does layers now. It'll work with previous mixed audio H.264 stuff. You can distribute them wherever you want. Supports scalable audio coding, but for those that asked earlier, this is how it works now. SVC changes it and gives you video layers. So picture an image goes out in layers where a mobile device will take a 128 stream at 264, but you'll jump into laptops and then all the way up to HD TV, which jumps from 300 to, of course, 5120 kilobits, all right? So SVC is more robust. Transmission can see the lower frame rates. A client can effectively request their own reduced quality frame layer rate if necessary and then view the format locally, meaning the hardware-based solution where it had to do all the transcoding doesn't exist anymore. So the VMCU is a software layer that says, here's all the layers. Let the client request what layers it needs so it saves bandwidth. So you're not pushing the same bandwidth to every client and letting them decide. The client requests what it needs as a layer, and that's what this new SVC, this new layer does inside the VMCU, is say, here's all the layers, you tell me what you need. So it's different frame rates, different quality, different resolutions. Sorry, I had to get geeky for a minute.
No, no, no.
I apologize to everybody. I had to get geeky for a minute. Are you going to talk about the manager too?
Yeah, I went to my happy place. I'm not actually talking much more about the manager. If you wanted to talk about the manager,
I'll mention it for everyone. So the manager, which is instead of the VMCU, is the VMGR, but it manages a pool of VMCUs, which can be geographically spread, so you can balance load based on policy, user loads. You could have a couple VMCUs at one site that has most of your employees, proximity-based, but it's clusterable and it's scalable. So for us as a hosting data center, we can front-end it with a load balancer. We can assign specific nodes right away at runtime, or we can have alternates or failovers or disaster recovery using multiple of our data centers. So we can provide a VMCU solution for a global enterprise and push people to a certain site or solution based upon load or proximity first using the new video manager, which controls the VMCUs. So I can create cluster pools now, which gives me more flexibility than I've ever had in previous versions of Sametime, where if you had a meeting server, you had a meeting server. If you had two of them, you either had to use some load balancer that kind of threw people around or wasn't a failover. Now I can actually move you around based upon load and proximity and policy better and control the VMCUs. So there you go. How's that for a summary?
Works for me.
Okay, and they have one question. Can we leave out the VMCU and video manager and add them later?
Yeah.
You can, but I wouldn't leave out the VMCU. That's my opinion. Gab may differ. Gab and I argue on Webcast all the time. I would say if you're doing the video components, the media managers, but you would do the VMCU because you want to build that policy and proximity and build the layering technology in right away to provide better performance. That's just my opinion.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just going to sidestep because Kim Outlet's on the call, and Kim just put an update in on the licensing question that people are asking, saying that for external users there's no need for a license. So I'm just asking Kim to clarify. I assume he means external users attending meetings and not external users wanting to use the Sametime client and join your community. So I have just put that question to Kim because I'm not quite sure whether that...
I see Kim at the bottom said no, still fine.
So external users wanting to join the community and authenticate, I don't have to buy a license for them. Okay, well that's my mistake. I didn't think IBM had been that generous.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh. IBM has been overly generous. Yay.
No, they said they've done away with the extranet licensing and just replaced it with per-user licensing. I misunderstood, and this is why I don't sell licensing.
Hey, I don't do licensing either, but that's why we're talking about it. But Kip said everybody's generous. External users using chat, meetings, audio, video, etc., all okay.
Cool.
Yep, that's what I understood, is that the extranet was included. And I know we were jumping ahead of licensing, but we'll come back to licensing for everybody in a minute when we talk about the new models.
And Kim might want to stay on the line till we get there.
So we might give Kim audio control. If we have a lot of licensing questions, we will give Kim audio and promote. Okay.
Okay. So the WebSphere application server has changed. You might think that it's changed to the same version as Connections is now using, but no. So Sametime is on 8.5.5. For those of you running Connections 4.5, you know Connections is on 8.05. Sounds similar, not the same. Actually, the good news for you guys, if you're running one, as of 1.8, it's an awful lot easier, not just to install, but to upgrade and patch. We no longer have the update installer and downloading the fix packs and getting them in place. It's actually, they've significantly improved ones as of version 8 in terms of management. So that's actually good news. What it does mean is if you're already running Sametime, you're running the wrong version of WebSphere. So we're going to talk about that when we talk about upgrading and migrating.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to laugh when everybody said it, but so everybody knows, if you're just getting into this, just starting to look at all of it, and you're looking at all the pieces. So we're talking about connections. We're talking about Sametime. We're talking about all the different pieces that use WebSphere. They generally just don't use the same version. It just doesn't happen. And so I laugh every time because Gab put it in there so kindly. She slid it under the table. She's like, and if you're using Connection, it doesn't use the same version. So once again, the steps we're going to talk about in a few minutes in the last 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the session is plans of how you would migrate or upgrade or integrate this as you go along. So it's kind of important that you guys catch up with us at that time as well. Okay, sorry.
Okay. The other thing is DB2. It's now DB2 10.1. The good news is 9.7 is still supported. Again, Connections is now DB2 10 as well. It does help you in being 9.7 when you're doing your migration updating, which means you don't have to take on upgrading your entire DB2 environment at the same time as you upgrade everything else. But your end goal, if you're starting from scratch, you're going to want to go with DB210. The thing I would say to you, if you're working with Sametime and your only exposure to DB2 is through Sametime historically, DB210 is a bit of a shock to the system from 9.7 because we no longer have the control center, and you now have to have a separately installed DB2 client to connect and manage the databases. So of all the things they're doing at the same time, I would say the move from DB2 9.7 to 10 is the biggest learning curve for Sametime admins, bizarrely enough. But we don't spend that much time in DB2, so but something to think about. Don't catch yourself out by thinking you can just upgrade to DB2 10 and you're off and running again. You probably need to think about that and prep that a little bit more. And Connections 4.5. So Sametime 9, the Sametime integration, which includes the ability to share files that are stored in Connections in Sametime meeting centers, supports Connections 4.5. If you're going to ask, does it work on earlier versions? That's something to try, but it's certainly not supported on earlier versions. And things like the meeting center and the files application won't work on earlier versions. Whether the awareness will work, because it's still the Sametime proxy server, it's still the Sametime community server. I would have thought it would still work. I haven't had a chance to test. But officially the support is Connections 4.5.
Now, Gab, did you see we had a question on that a minute ago? Let me scroll up and find it in my list real quick. I saw, here it is, Sametime. There it is. It says Sametime 9 supported with Connections 4 CR2. Oh, well, I didn't know if everyone saw it. Sametime 9 supported with Connections 4 CR2. So you said no Connections 4.5 only.
4.5.
Okay. Just I want to make sure everybody heard it. I know it's been flying by. Go ahead.
If it was Connections, if it's a typo and we mean Connections 4.5 CR2, then yes, I would have thought that's supported. Again, I don't work for IBM support, but certainly historically there's no reason they don't normally support critical releases of versions of the software they support.
Gotcha.
But if it's 4.0 now.
Okay. Good. Just want to make sure everybody, so everyone knows we're answering some questions publicly in the Q&A section. We just want to make sure that everybody is aware that that was one of the questions that was asked. Is it with the older versions? They didn't say it was.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you got next? Are you clicking? There you go. Oh, licensing time. Get your questions ready, Kim. Kim, stick around.
Okay, so before we do the licensing, let's go with a poll. Everyone loves a poll.
Everyone loves a poll. You want me to click it or you got it?
No, I've got it. Here we go.
Did you send it to everybody?
I thought I sent it to everyone.
Does everyone have the poll? Let me look. There it is. Sorry, there it is. I see it now. Oh, it's one of the organizers. It took me a second. So the last answer I put in there apparently is doing well. Wow. So you'll be able, when you close it, you'll be able to share it with everybody, Gab. So give them about another 5 seconds. Everyone click a button.
Chris is teaching me on my first ever poll in a webinar. So we all get to learn something today.
Exactly.
Okay, closing the poll in 3, 2, 1. Close.
And now you can share it.
Share results.
Nice. Well done. Look at you. So here's what we asked about. What is your timeline to move? So this overall, I appreciate the final answer. We have no clue, but it's pretty even within a month to 3 to 6 months that a lot of people want to move to 9, and I'm guessing a lot of it's over the new capabilities as well as some of the licensing changes. But that's really interesting to see. So 50% within 6 months.
Yeah. Okay.
Now you have to. There you go.
I'm back.
Well done. Well done, Gab. You learned that brilliantly.
Thank you. Okay, so previous same-time licensing. Go on, Chris. You can take the licensing one.
Well,
I have showed myself up already.
We're not gonna go in deep about it. We want everybody to know, and I wanted to put up an old graphic so everyone knew before. You had the entry mode, which a lot of people relied on heavily. So you'd have a lot of your instant messaging presence in chat. Entry was the way in that a lot of companies installed it. They just wanted to have the chat capability. A funny story, and I'm going to go back in time. It was about 2000, 2001. We sat at IBM, and we told them, and I have the slides, and said chat should be a commodity, and it should be free. And they said, it'll never be free. Come out 651, it was free. So we won't harp on that, but the point was that chat became, just like email, became a commodity, became part of the infrastructure and what people expected. So Standard took that to the next step. It added in the gateway capabilities, it added in the video, it added in the extranet, you got in things about meetings, and as Gab pointed out, there was this extra layer of advanced that was another license model that had more capabilities that was based around the old ICT stuff, but it became easier to install, but before it was MQ series and brokers and everything else. And then they added, of course, the telephony pieces on the side. So you can integrate with your phone systems, your back-end telephony, you'd have presence, click dial, all this beautiful feature set. So the original licensing revolved heavily around this. Now, we're not talking about if it was part of a CEO package or a TCOM. We're not talking about all that. This is just standard. Here's same time, here you go. So they've changed that.
They have changed that. So we now have clicking like crazy. Nothing.
That word's off. We apologize for a word being a little low. Oh, well. Okay.
Sorry. Yes, the world's ugliest graphic, but we only spotted it was offset just before. So, do you want to talk, Chris? Or
yeah, well, we can jump through together because I think this is going to be important. And a lot of people are asking about this, so let's talk about the different pieces. So first of all, we have communicate, right?
Yeah.
And
so
go ahead.
Communicate is what I think of as everything instant messaging. Okay, so if you want to do IM in all ways through all clients, including mobile clients, if you want all the rich features of IM, if you want to do things like the persistent chat, if you want to do the skill tap and the broadcast music, all of that is in Communicate. The one piece that isn't in Communicate is the ability to share someone's screen through an IM client, and for that you need Complete. But everything else that you can think of that would be in your instant messaging client, including all of the features that you used to get with Advance, that you can now get with Communicate, the persistent chats and all that, that's all available with Communicate.
I will go with, well, now skill tap and instant polls are now part of this as well under Communicate, which is different. That's different. Persistent group chat is now part of it, which is different. Bandwidth management is now part of it, and peer-to-peer voice and video is now part of Communicate.
Yeah, peer-to-peer. No, that's not the multi-point video. That's not the media manager. It's not the VMCU, the video manager. That's separate. But individual one-to-one audio and video is.
Should I run the list? Do you want me to run the list? I'll do it. Just everybody, here you go. So you get your presence. You get your messaging, which includes offline, file transfers, at the same time gateway. You get skill tap, instant polls community. You get persistent group chat. You get peer-to-peer, like Gab said, not multi-point, peer-to-peer audio video. You also get a SIP soft phone license capability. Bandwidth management, you get your clients, the zero download, the browser client, the mobile client, all that. Integration with third-party plugins, and internal to external collaboration is included in the license. Now, forgetting the cost, because I really don't care what they say the costs are, because everyone comes up with different values and breaks and all that. But that's what you get inside of Communicate. Then you can add the conference layer on top of that.
Well, actually, it's yeah.
You could buy it separate too, right? You could buy it
it's separate. So Communicate and Conference are separate licenses, and they're aimed at different people. If what you want is instant messaging and everything to do with instant messaging, that's Communicate. If what you want is online meetings and everything to do with online meetings, that's Conference. So if you don't care so much about instant messaging, but what you want is to be able to have the meeting space and do online meetings, that's Conference. And Conference gives you the full multi-point media manager, everything to do with multi-point media. It doesn't let you use the rich meeting client that's part of the Sametime client. You're not licensed for that with Sametime Conference. So your meeting experience is entirely web-based. So those are kind of parallel licensing, and they're aimed at people that want one or the other. Well, I want meetings, but I don't care about instant messaging, so I don't want to have to pay for that. Or I want instant messaging, but we only use meetings occasionally, and when we do, we use them in, at Lotus Live. So I don't want to run my meeting environment with multi-point video, so I'll just have the Communicate license.
So we'll read the list, and I'm going to give you the list for Sametime Conference too, but ask some questions people are asking. SUT Lite. So if it's a SIP, soft phone, voice, or video, that's part of Communicate now. So that's one of the questions we had. What about internal to external instant messaging? They have the ability for you to talk to third-party service federation as part of Communicate. That's built into Communicate license. Now for Conference, and Gab brought this up, I'll read you the list. Like I said, we're not going to put it on the screen, but I'll read you the list. For meetings, you get persistent rooms. Instead of persistent chat, we talked about the other one, persistent rooms. You can issue polls in the meetings, capture minutes, annotate, all that stuff's built in the meetings. Multi-point video, so the software MCU, continuous presence, dial out to third-party gateways with other numbers, bandwidth management's still there for the meetings. You still get the mobile clients, and internal to external collaboration, as Kim said, is included in the license again. So they're giving the ability to bring in external people into your meetings. So it's a beautiful thing. I love that feature. So then I know you were jumping. Were you jumping to Complete already, or did I step in?
No, I was jumping to Complete.
Okay, well, Complete is next. Go for it, and then I can read the list if we need it.
Okay, so Sametime Complete. If you're already a Sametime customer and you have Sametime, you now have Sametime Complete. Sametime Complete, as shown on our lovely graphic, is a combination of the two. It gives you everything, instant messaging, and everything conference. So with Sametime Complete, you get screen sharing, which you didn't get with either one of the individual licenses. And you also get the ability to use the rich meeting client, which you didn't get with the conference client. So for most customers, I'd expect to see them buying Sametime Complete. I think what IBM have done in streamlining the licensing is very smart. I don't know, and I haven't seen, because again, I don't sell licensing, if there's an upgrade path, if you buy Communicate and then decide you want to go to Complete. Kim might be able to answer that. I don't even know if IBM have thought about it. But certainly for my customers, I'm recommending Sametime Complete, because there's so much functionality available at the same time. There's so much being invested in it and coming in the future, which Chris and I aren't allowed to talk about. But there's so much coming in the future at the same time as well as here today. Limiting yourself on the license unless you're absolutely sure that's what you want I think it's a false economy right now.
Right, well, I would say people are asking about how licensing is now blending, and one of the big questions that we should cover is people are noticing that entry is not there.
Yes, entry has now gone. That's not the entitlement for your notes client embedded. That was different. Right. Entry was pure instant messaging through a Sametime client to connect to one community only. That license has gone away. I actually don't know if you already have that license, what you've been grandfathered into. Someone's asking in the chat. Maybe Kim knows.
So Kim, what they're asking, Kim, is are you grandfathered in if you had the licensing for entry? So entitlement is different than entry, so everyone can understand. We're talking two different things. And I think a lot of people confuse entitlement with entry.
And Kim has said in the chat there are actually trade-ups from Communicate and Conference to Complete.
We would suggest you all email Kim directly. Forget your BP rep. We feel that we'll put Kim's number on a slide in just a few minutes and email address, and you can send to Kim an email. So the Sametime Complete, as Gab was saying, is a great way to go. It's going to have the continuous presence video calls, instantly share your screen. What else? Meetings had the rich client. scheduled meetings view, drag and drop participants, but it's basically Communicate and Conference Plus as a way.
There are only a couple. If you buy Communicate and Conference separately instead of buying Complete, there are only a couple of things that are missed out of the picture. One is the instant share, the ability to remote control someone's screen, and the other one is using the rich client for meetings. Those are the two things that Complete has over either one of the items individually.
Right. Ooh, I've got an answer. I've got some answers. You know why I've got an answer? I found a slide. So if you had same time entry, I'm going to read you this slide. You have to be on active maintenance for anything I'm talking about. We're not doing a licensing talk, so I'm going to make this quick. We've only got 19 minutes left. But here we go. 8.5 code stream will still be supported under normal life cycle. You can move up to the 9 model. There's annual maintenance fees. But here you go. Same time entry, you need to talk to your rep directly. It's going to be withdrawn. Customers will be engaged directly. Intranet and extranet users is now included, so they're not going to have an extranet. I'm sorry, I said intranet. Extranet external users are now going to be included, as we said, with Communicate, Conference, Complete. It's going to be withdrawn as a separate license. It was an old PBU metric. You need to talk to IBM to see which one you map. SUT Lite is now included with Communicate and Complete. It's going to be withdrawn. If you had other offerings with entitlements and same time unified telephony, no change. If you had standard or advanced, same time complete via automated migration. So that should answer every license question that we're going to talk about.
And I will give the shout out to Kim to say, yeah, IBM have been extremely generous in grandfathering into Complete if you were on same time standard, because you've now just got everything that you would have had with Advanced and a bunch of new stuff. Very smart move, and I think for existing same-time customers it's a really good opportunity. And we'll now run away from this licensing conversation, which neither Chris or I like, back to the technical world where we're much happier.
And I'm going to share a couple things that, Kim, I'm going to share 2 things that you put in there, just so it goes to public so everyone can see it. So now if you had a couple other ones, look at the Q&A section. Kim Artlip answered a few of the licensing questions, and I just put in there that I'm sharing it so everyone knows. So we're going to go back to the tech because we have 17 minutes. Okay, go ahead, Gab.
Okay. Clicking like crazy. Okay, so number 1 question. I want to upgrade my existing same-time environment. What can I do? So the first thing is moving to LDAP. Prior to 8.5, a lot of people ran Domino Directory for authentication for same time. Post 8.5, you were meant to move to LDAP. You could have got away with not doing that as long as you were installing just the community server and possibly the proxy server. You could have got away with maintaining just Domino Directory format rather than converting to LDAP. As soon as you put in the system console or you wanted a meeting server, you had to convert to LDAP. It's not a huge job on your community server. Moving some files around, changing some INI settings, running a conversion on a VP user info. But if you haven't moved to LDAP, now is the time to think about doing that. I would say one of the big things, we used to cheat. We used to run LDAP on the Domino server, and that would be the LDAP that same time used. So the community server would run its own LDAP and authenticate itself. You can't do that. It creates a loop that same time isn't at all happy with. So if you want to run Domino for LDAP, it has to be a server other than the one you've got same time on itself. Hopefully that makes sense. So you have to have another Domino server somewhere running LDAP that you can point the same time server to. Don't try and do without. You will think it works, and it's really going to give you problems, and it's not supported. So that's the number 1. Come up, if you don't already have LDAP deployed at the same time, come up with a plan. Now, outside of this, I have a presentation, and we've been doing it for several years. You can use directory assistance in Domino to actually do LDAP authentication using the Domino name and the Windows Active Directory password. And that's very cool because it saves you having to maintain an HTTP password in the person document. It works for iNotes, it works for everything. It's slightly off topic, but it is something to think about because a lot of people will come and say, okay, I want to do password synchronization between AD and Domino if we're going to do this. You actually don't need to do that. You can very simply use your directory assistance, honor your Active Directory password to authenticate Domino users. And if you want to know more, just ping me. I have a presentation I can send you. Click. Click.
Sorry, I had I had stole the mouse for 1 second to answer a question. I apologize. Go ahead.
That's right. The role of DNS. So this is a good thing. Everything in Sametime world is about DNS, and it's about host names as far as the clients are concerned. So when you're thinking of upgrading, this really helps for you because you can build an entirely new environment, and when you're ready, you can just change the DNS entries to point to it without having to reconfigure the clients. As long as your host names, the names you use to connect to the community server, stay the same, then everything stays the same, and you can move to entirely new servers and build everything from scratch. The one thing I want to point out, if you're using a Sametime client and you've set up a community in there, the host name you use for that community has to stay the same. If you suddenly decide, you know what, we don't like that host name, let's try something new and a bit snappier, your VP user info, all your buddy lists, everything will break. Because
did you say please use a snappier host name? Is that what you refer to it as?
Yeah, believe me. Yeah.
Snappier.
And catch you. What all the cool kids will dig? Am I sounding old at all?
No, when you say snappier, it means that so people you think about. I've said this before in sessions and everywhere else. If you're an administrator that does mail and you do Sametime and connections and you don't understand or know DNS, and it's like I don't even know who's paying attention right now. If you don't understand DNS, please go get the book DNS and Bind from like O'Reilly and just read it, because the role of DNS in everything now that we do since version 7 has become a key to making your environment work well. Forget IP addresses and everything behind the scenes. Also, it gives you a reason to say not my problem, because if DNS breaks and you're not the DNS manager, it's not your problem. But definitely invest the time.
Yeah, I'd also say one thing we run across in building Sametime environments a lot, split horizon DNS. If I'm going to have an iPad and I've got Sametime on it, the host name for Sametime on the iPad has to work when I'm on my internal corporate network and when I'm public.
Yes.
That involves what's called split horizon DNS.
Or dual zone for those that really do a lot of DNS.
Zone. Yeah.
Sorry. For those on the other side of the horizon, dual zone.
Dual zone, yeah. So when I'm internal, the same host name resolves internally as it does externally. I have talked to network managers who will deny that's possible and exists. It is possible. We do it all the time. It does exist. You're going to be using it at the same time because you
take
want
them
the
back,
same.
Out back, and flog them if they say it doesn't exist.
You want the same host name to work everywhere. In place versus side-by-side upgrades. So cards on the table. I am by nature risk averse. I do not like doing in-place upgrades if I can avoid them, because it doesn't give me good rollback points even with virtualization. Especially with Sametime 9, I would recommend you do not try and do in-place upgrades and you do a side-by-side upgrade. The only exception to that would be the community server, which I would be comfortable doing in place. The reason I say do side-by-side, you're moving to DB210, you're moving to WebSphere 855 from WebSphere 7. You are going somewhere it's not going to be easy to roll back from. You have the advantage of being able to copy the DB2 databases. So you've got an existing meeting server in 8.5 and you've got a meeting database. Well, you can take a copy of that and use it to build your new environment. That's fine. So your meeting places and everything goes over with you. When you're ready and you're tested with the new environment, you can just flip the DNS and everyone's going to switch over new. But it gives you the ability to build carefully. It gives you the ability to leave people on the old environment to test, and then when you're ready to switch over, and if necessary, switch back. You know, there's a little bit of moving around with files, but for me, the risk is much lower. So I'm not recommending in-place upgrades of the WebSphere components. It does mean, obviously, duplicating your virtual environment for a period when you're running the two, but then you can get rid of the old ones when you're done. That's me because I don't like risk and I like to manage the upgrade. Technically, absolutely, it's possible.
Yes. I'm sorry, I was stealing the mouse for a second. I was answering a question over there. So I answered this one while I'm typing for someone else. They said, can you, I'm not going to answer we're not going to answer it the whole way you asked the question, but they want to use Sametime for multiple directories of Domino and LDAP. So can I have one Sametime server that supports using DA, multiple Domino and LDAP directories?
You can't use what you're going to have is you're going to have a Domino server running LDAP, and that Domino server running LDAP will have directory assistance, which itself lists multiple LDAP servers. So yes, you could do that, and your Sametime would then point to that one Domino server, and directory assistance on that one Domino server would point to multiple locations. So a couple of things about that. You're gonna Sametime is extremely demanding of LDAP. It sends, if you imagine all that awareness, the presence awareness, everything, all of these are LDAP lookups. If you have an environment where you have large groups or nested groups, that becomes exponentially worse. I've seen plenty of environments, especially if the LDAP is Active Directory, which automatically has throttling on that we've had to fix for Sametime. So if you imagine when you start adding other LDAP environments, let's say you've got two offices that are in different geographic locations and you want to add both their Active Directory servers and make that available to a single Sametime server, you're going to get some latency in the directory environment because everything is searched against both directories, and one directory is going to be on a WAN connection. So think very carefully. Technically it's possible, performance-wise it's really something you're going to want to think about. The other side of that is if you have multiple LDAP servers for failover and you have a load balancer controlling failover for your LDAP, consider not using the load balancer in WebSphere under directories. We can actually enter LDAP servers and failover LDAP servers. Historically, WebSphere has been much happier managing its own failover than you pointing WebSphere to a load balancer and expecting WebSphere to pick up the failed over LDAP from the load balancer. It is not good at recognizing that it should be using a new LDAP server if the load balancer is responding. So again, I prefer not to point WebSphere LDAP at a load balancer. I prefer to point WebSphere LDAP at multiple failed over servers, and it will logically fail over itself if one isn't available. So there are two sides to that.
To give people a mental number, picture that you only have 10 people in your environment, and each of these 10 people are online and presence is going. So that means each person is pulling the server to not only update their own presence, but get the presence of those in their buddy list. So now, and also if they go to meetings or they go offline or they go to busy status or mobile or whatever, now multiply that out by the size of your environment and imagine people, and also the size of the buddy list has a huge impact on how much LDAP is queried. So the more people that have larger buddy lists, which you can limit that in policies, but the more activity that you're also going to see in a lot of the polling features and functions going on inside of LDAP. I've seen that get a heavier and heavier load in companies that allow people to add groups like all with like 10,000 employees, which is ridiculous because there's no reason you're monitoring that many people on and offline. So that LDAP load will grow considerably based upon also the size of the environment. Sorry, I was just interjecting.
No, that's fine. I jumped over. So
you bring up a great point. So side by side, and I'll second Gab so everyone knows Gab and I are on the same page. Back in the day, I'd upgrade in place with Sametime because it was a single server or maybe just two with the community and meeting servers running on Domino. Now with all the components, it's not only easier, but like she said, the fallback mode, meaning if you're just doing a DNS swap to a new environment and something goes awry, you have the availability to move DNS back and everything is happy and healthy and you don't have any large interruption in service or worrying about uninstalling, so it makes life a lot easier. Okay.
Done. Cool.
While you answered questions. See, this is the way Gab and I are tag teaming. I've been answering questions. We're tag teaming. So make this bullet point short, though, because we have 6 minutes.
Okay, very quickly, because I've just asked that question in the chat someone asked. If you just physically copy the database to set up a new environment, like I just suggested side by side, do you have to redo the scheme or update anything? You will have to upgrade the databases, but there are instructions for doing that. It's not a complicated thing to do. But yeah, you can't just physically copy over all the databases and then point 9 elements at them and everything's just going to work.
And you'd want to anyway, because they've added, just like in Connections and the other ones, they're going to add new schema changes. It's like adding a new template in Domino for people to put it mentally. You're going to get something new probably inside somewhere in those features, so the new table spaces will get something added to them. So definitely upgrade it.
Yeah. Oh, yes, so The one I jumped in and stopped Chris earlier. The meeting server, what's called the classic meeting server, the one that ran onto Domino, no longer exists. All these people that contact me and say the same time meeting server is meant to be better, but it still looks just as bad as it ever did. That's because you were using the classic meeting server. The classic meeting server was only ever left there at 8.5 for people that were transitioning to the WebSphere meeting server and had scheduled meetings in the ST Center database scheduled out to the future. So they have done away with that. Now if you install Sametime 9 on Domino, you have no meeting services at all. This is good news because it means we're going to get better performance out of the community server because we're not running services it doesn't need. But it does mean if you want meetings, you have to use the WebSphere component. Probably, it's not a complicated thing to install, but you will lose that. So if you're using Classic Meetings now in Domino, bear in mind your upgrade is going to take that away from you. Instant messaging on a smartphone or tablet requires the Sametime proxy server. You can't install just the community server. The community server will give you every kind of instant messaging. It won't give you the tablet or the smartphone. Similarly, some of the cool things that come with instant messaging now with the communicate licenses that we were talking about, the persistent chat and the skill tap and the broadcast tools, that's the Sametime advanced server, which is a WebSphere component as well. So although your communicate license entitles you to it, you do actually have to install that. It uses code from that server.
And the keyword in there is proxy, so everyone understands, meaning that it proxies your community server for availability of the meeting services to have it, as well as the mobile clients and everywhere else. Anything that's not a full client that uses anything web-based uses the proxy server. Does that simplify it?
Yeah.
We got a question from, and I'm going to throw this out so we can just move it, because Suzanne comes to all our webcasts and she's got two good questions we kind of skipped. Don't think we forgot you, but you said, what components would you recommend be combined? I think you should talk to Gab and I offline, because it depends on the size of your environment and what you're going to do, meaning how many meetings or how many, so if you want to talk about combining services and what makes sense, it's per case basis. I don't think there's any standard I would ever recommend to anybody.
There isn't. I mean, we do a lot of combining, a lot of co-hosting. It's certainly viable. The one thing you want to think about, everyone, if you're going to be combining, is every component really should have its own separate host name. Don't try and use the same host name even if you're on the same box, because they want to talk to each other, and they will talk to each other using host names. So if you tell the proxy server it has the same name as the meeting server, it will get very confused about how to talk to it. So just bear in mind that. We often do different host names or multiple IPs when we're co-hosting. But yes, as Chris said, just ping us offline and we can give you some more details on that. Because I'm very
While you change slides, I think I would just put down in the questions, Gab. While you change the next slide, I think I would just put down. They said, will Gabriella be publishing a Sametime 9 administration manual?
Well, Gabriella
put your name. Just you.
I'm sorry. Well, yeah, I'm certainly working, talking about updating probably online the Sametime 9 information. As I said kind of on my blog, being risk averse, I like to install on TerraPart and do side-by-side and do upgrade in place before I start recommending to other people publicly what they should be doing. So I'm a little bit early for that at the moment.
I'll make a recommendation, everybody. I'm going to talk to Gab offline about something, but I think we might watch both our blogs, because I think I might have an answer to your question. So we're at Q&A time, and we've got a ton of questions that are in there that we need to clear up.
Right. So from the bottom going up, am I able to deploy the Sametime proxy without System Console? Yes, you are, but if you do that, you're manually editing XML files to get it to work. You can do it. Plenty of people do it. It's not a problem to do it. I wouldn't recommend it unless you're happy fiddling about with XML files. The System Console gives you a very nice interface for you to manage everything through.
You see what I was typing for the next one, Gab? Do you lose all the existing reservations and you migrate? Not if you migrate the databases. You don't lose all the existing reservations.
Okay. So if your reservations are in the classic meeting center on Domino, the old school one, that's gone. So you're losing everything. There's no way to get that to WebSphere. That's why they supported it throughout the whole 8.5 process, because so many people had meetings scheduled out every month for 3 years. But if you're on WebSphere 8.5 meetings and you're going to WebSphere 9 meetings, then yes, you can keep all of the meetings, because don't forget, in the 8.5, the Webster Meeting Center, a meeting place is a place. It has all historic information, it has files, it has transcripts, so you can't lose that. That has to come with you.
There you go. Already did that one.
Side by side.
Side by side.
Would I just start with installing Sametime and pull my data over to the Sametime 8.5x server? Certainly, well, my base point when I'm installing is DB2, then System Console, then, define your LDAP, then Community Server. So the same would apply if I'm doing a side-by-side. It's just that when I go to install System Console, instead of creating a new System Console database, I would copy over and upgrade the one I've got. It does give us some problems that when you do new installs, you're going to have to do the register products that it thinks are already there. The System Console, you can actually start from scratch and then just go ahead as you build things, register them. Thinking on the fly, it's going to cause you a lot less problems if you start with a clean System Console database from scratch than try and copy things over.
Sure.
This is
what
why
else we got left? We're at our mark.
I should be doing this on the last 30 seconds of the call off the top of my head. So if you have a question on that, email me. I'm going to put a bit of thought to it, but just thinking through what would be involved in moving the System Console database over and upgrading it, I actually don't think it would be worth it. I think you'd start with a new one.
Correct. I'm throwing anything on licensing, I'm going to direct you a lot to the IBM people, and also the link that we put in the earlier slide. There's some information about what I talked about, what's migrated across, that you should definitely investigate to make sure your license migrates properly, meaning, if you're licensed for entry or whatever, or you're trying to move up to collaborate or communicate, to talk to your IBM reps or Martlip, but make sure that they migrate properly across there. Does Sametime 9 support the quicker connector? We had that one way up at the top.
The Eclipse environment, actually, I really don't know. It's still an Eclipse environment. The quicker connector is a plugin. I haven't seen anything about it not supporting older plugins. It certainly supports like the connections plugin, which is older than Sametime 9 itself. But no, I'm afraid I don't know a definitive answer on that. I can test and find out, but only IBM can answer if it's supported.
Is there a Sametime 9 embedded client?
Not in the Notes client at the moment. Kim might be able to answer if they're going to release one, but usually they roll it up into the next major release of Notes. So that's what I'd expect to see.
Right, and then Kim's still throwing stuff. Kim, I'm just going to share it just so everyone sees it about another license question so you can answer that. And we had one big one at the top, Gab, and I'm going to scroll up. That says we need the proxy server for iNotes. This is probably the last one we have time for. We need the proxy server for iNotes embedded experience, but have there been updates? Like, do the chats in iNotes support rich text? Is there a way to connect to more than one proxy server? No. It's all the same. You connect to one proxy server per client. You could connect to multiple
you
communities.
If you could sit and use like a load balancer to connect to multiple proxy servers.
I think they're saying multiple at one time in terms of proxies.
Oh, no.
Yes. Right, you connect to one proxy, but you can connect to multiple communities.
Yeah, that's the Sametime proxy server, no.
Right. There's no updates to it yet.
No, iNotes supports connections to a single proxy server. The proxy server web client connects to one community server. So you can you can launch multiple web clients that all connect to different community servers, but in terms of the client UI, no.
All right. So does Notes 9 including Sametime entitlements? Yeah. From what we understand, you still get the entitlement of the entitlement chat. Once again, talk to IBM about that part, but that's a whole different piece. We talked about deployment a lot. I think that took care of that one. So for everyone that knows, because we're at the end of our time, we're actually over by 5, this webcast was recorded. For those that came late or missed, or well, if you missed it, you wouldn't know. But if you came late, it'll be on consultantinyourpocket.com. Gab can embed it in her blog. I can embed it in my blog. It'll be everywhere with all the other webcasts we've done. Gab can be reached at, and Gab, should I scroll back to your slide real quick? Hold on.
Oh, go on.
Scroll. I'm doing it. Oh, geez, I didn't know you put that many sub-bullets on there. I would have just done it as one. Where are you? Right there. Gab can be reached at turtleblog.info for the blog itself, or Gabriella at turtlepartnership.com, or as you see on Skype or Twitter, Gab Turtle, Skype, Gabriella Davis. So you can reach her there. Me, I do notes on everything, so if you can't find me, we have problems. We've got issues for everybody. We want to thank Instant Technology, of course, for being the sponsor to help cover everything to get you guys online and watching it. If you have more questions, find us online, find us on Skype, put comments on our blog posts about the webcast. We both have blog posts up that talk about it, so we can both contribute and participate in the comment sections as well. Otherwise, Gab, if you can hang on too, I guess, or whatever, but otherwise, everyone else, thank you for attending another Consult in Your Pocket webcast, and there will be another one scheduled shortly. I have a topic idea in mind. If you do have your own topic ideas, send them in to me, and I will try to get them scheduled with the right people. So thanks, everybody.